mortals. From child sacrifice to rodent rituals, we're uncovering the shocking history behind the Tooth Fairy, plus a truly disturbing tooth case on the Parallax Podcast. You'll never look at lost baby teeth the same way again.
Hi, Willow.
Hi, Karisa. How are you this, I would say evening, but it is now nighttime. How are you this night?
I am great this night.
This night I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Can me appreciate it.
Yes.
So I'm excited. I don't know. Am I excited? We're going to find out. So
Well, you should be, because we have a great thing planned for our listeners today.
we do. This is our Halloween episode, so happy Halloween, everybody, since this drops on October 1st.
Yes.
This was an episode that was given to us anonymously from somebody at the Buathu Zoo event that we were at. So thank you to that person and her son for writing this down.
Yeah, I remember them sitting there and like kind of like writing it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if we're taking the spin on it that they're expecting, but you know what? We're taking the spin on it anyway. So part of me is excited to tell you this story because I know it's one that you haven't heard because I didn't even really go into detail telling you about it.
Mhm.
But I'm also disturbed to know that there is a dark history behind the Tooth Fairy. So
I'm always
I mean,
bringing darkness to the podcast.
yeah, like let's make childhood memories really disturbing and dark. Let's do it.
We know
this
that even
Halloween.
like with nursery rhymes or even the songs
Oh,
they would
yeah.
sing, there was always some kind of like, you're like, wait, ring around the prosy, what?
Yeah. So what a great thing to do on Halloween. So you can go out, you
Great
can
songs and
go out, you can trick or treat, and then come back and have your childhood ruined.
yes. Anyway, yes. So we did try to find the case of the missing, because they just wrote down missing tooth on the paper suggestion that we had listed there. But we could only find one court case that mentioned a tooth missing from the evidence. So Willow's going to literally kind of bring us into the understanding of that case. And then, of course, I'm going to bring you back to the dark side and the origins of the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
Take it away,
Well,
Willow.
let's do it. So this case literally centers completely around the crown of a single tooth. Not the tooth itself, but the crown of the tooth.
Okay.
So let me tell you about how exactly that came about. We're going to start by setting the stage. This character, this real life person, I believe her name is pronounced either Helle or Helle. I think it's Helle. It's spelled Helle, and she's from Denmark. So I am very sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm going to say Helle because I think that's really cool, but I don't know. Anyway, Helle Lork Nielsen, better known as Helle Crafts, was born on July 7th, 1947 in Denmark. She later moved to the United States and worked as a flight attendant. She and her husband, Richard Crafts, who was a pilot, lived in Newtown, Connecticut with their children. By late 1986, their marriage, however, was fracturing. Richard was a less than ideal spouse. He wasn't very attentive to the children, and he tended to purchase expensive equipment and firearms without consulting his wife. And to just add a little icing on that awful spouse cake, he was not faithful at all in any way, shape, or form to his wife.
He sucks.
Exactly. So Helle discovered his infidelity, and she discovered it multiple times, but there was one that just was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, this guy, Richard, just did not have this understanding whatsoever of a paper trail. Like, he just did not know what that was. And so it really wasn't that difficult to figure out that he was being unfaithful, because he would just leave around like the receipts of him going to different states. Because, of course, Connecticut's so small, you can just beep bop around to the other small states of New England. And he's just beep bopping around to all his ladies and just literally leaving behind the receipts. So it's very obvious to his wife that something sketchy's going on.
He's leaving around his receipts and leaving around his seed.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. This man is like completely oblivious to paper trail at all. So Helle consulted a divorce attorney, and she also hired a private investigator named Keith Mayo to document the proof of his infidelity so that she could go through with getting a divorce. On November 18th, 1986, Helle returned home from a trip from Frankfurt and was dropped off at home by a friend, but that was the last confirmed time that she was seen alive. From that point on, things went dark. Her friends and colleagues became concerned when she missed flights and stopped being reachable. She had warned people before all of this, if something happens to me, don't think it was an accident. Plus, Richard's own response to his wife missing just didn't seem right. He wasn't giving very good answers whenever anyone would ask about where she was or how she was doing. Like, it was obvious from the get-go that he must have known something and that he was trying to hide information. Plus, the initial local police response was tepid because Richard had ties to local law enforcement, and so the idea of investigating him from their point of view was resisted at first, even though friends and colleagues were like, this man is so sus. There is something up. The private investigator, Mayo, however, continued to push since he was the one who was investigating for her. And eventually the case reached the Connecticut State Police, who was outside of the influence of Richard since he was only connected to the locals. So as the investigators began to dig, several oddities emerged inside the Crafts' home after they ended up getting a search warrant to search the premises. Segments of the carpet had been removed. The household nanny recalled that a portion of the carpet had a dark grapefruit-sized stain on it, and that section had later been removed and replaced. On the mattress as well, in the master bedroom, there was a smear of blood. Not to mention the fact that credit cards showed that around the time of Helle's disappearance, Richard had purchased new bedding, the sheets and comforter, and a large chest freezer, which was missing from the house at the time of the search. These are items obviously consistent with staging, cleanup, or concealment. Again, this man, no idea what a paper trail was. No idea that everything he did was something that they would be able to find out about. He just was like laissez-faire about purchasing things with his very own credit card.
It was almost like he felt like he could get away with murder.
But had no idea that he
Somebody
was
else
using
was
all of his
taking
own stuff. Yeah, he's using all of his own stuff to do this. He's using his own credit card to purchase these things. Like, they're not going to be able to find anything about it. Now, Richard had also rented a commercial wood chipper around the same time.
Wait, oh my gosh, what year was this all happening? I know
This is late 1980s, 1986.
Okay.
And he had rented a commercial wood chipper around the same time as her death. Chainsaw, later recovered from Lake Zor, which is part of a river, and I can't think of the name of the river, but it starts with an H. You will see, if you have listened to this case on other podcasts or you have read about it, they sometimes say it was found by a river. Lake Zor is like the best way to describe it, it's like a swelling almost of the river. It is attached to this river. So if you see Lake Zor or river, whatever it is, that starts with an H, it's the same place. It's just kind of depends on who's doing the reporting, what they're going to call it. But anywho, this chainsaw was found submerged and coated with hair and traces of blood. On that chainsaw, investigators managed to restore a scratched off serial number, which linked it back to a retailer, and that retailer's records showed that Richard Crafts had purchased it because he used his own name. He practically wrote down his crimes. So all of this obviously showed that Richard was most likely a lot more involved in this disappearance than he was willing to admit. But by itself, it wasn't enough to convict in a homicide trial, especially when no body could be produced. That's where the scene at the probable disposal site and the discovery of a fragmented remains, including a tooth crown, would become pivotal. One of the critical breakthroughs came courtesy of a man named Joseph Hine, sometimes spelled Joseph Hines in reporting. So it's either Hine or Hines. It just, again, depends who's reporting and where you're getting your source material from. So he was a snowplow driver from the town of Southbury. On the night of Helle's disappearance, around 3 to 4 a.m., during a snowstorm, he saw a U-Haul truck with a wood chipper attached, parked near the shore of Lake Zor. He observed that the truck's rear was open, lights off, and it seemed ominous. Later, detectives visited the spot that he had indicated he had seen this U-Haul with the wood chipper. They began sifting through wood chips, debris, and soil along the shore, and this is everything that they found. They found about 3 ounces of human tissue fragments.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. Sorry, guys. This is graphic. They found bone chips, 2 teeth, and a tooth crown, a fingernail painted with pink nail polish, a big toe, thousands of strands of bleached blonde human hair. I did see in some reports as many as 2,660 hairs, which who counted
Who
that?
counts that?
Like, who was tasked with sitting there counting out how many strands of hair?
It's kind of like, did you ever watch Ice Age?
Yes.
Why am I always the poop checker?
Wait, I'm the one who has to count out all the strands of hair. They also found the blood type of O, which matched Helle's blood type. So again, that one small fragment, which is the crown of a tooth with just a bit of jawbone, and again, the crown is the cap of the tooth for those who might not know, that really stood out to investigators. Now, I tried so hard to figure out how to pronounce this word. I'm going to mess it up. I sat in my car when I was like reading this and practicing it, and I practiced this word so many times and I could never get it down. But a forensic odontologist, one of those, would later identify that fragment as belonging to Helle Crafts, and that identification would be vital. So a forensic dentist dude, essentially, was able to look at x-rays, her dental x-rays, and the crown of this tooth and say, yes, this did belong to her. This has to be her tooth. Now, let's just pause for a moment and consider how difficult this situation is, even with this tooth. Without a full body, how do you prove that death occurred?
Right, obviously. There's all these other parts.
Exactly. How do you prove the remains found belong to the missing person? How do you link a suspect to the act? Now, the tooth could answer a critical link. It could answer all of those questions. It answers that the remains belong to Helle Crafts. We haven't found Helle Crafts literally anywhere else, but we have found her tooth. We found lots of other human remains. You can follow that line of thought and say that must mean that the rest of these bone fragments and this flesh belong to her. Right. Quite obviously, I would love to meet whoever it is that has survived being put through a wood chipper, because we can assume if all of that is mixed in with the wood, he put her in the wood chipper. Pretty sure that is 100% mortality rate. Going through a wood chipper. So for those of you who don't know, forensic odontology is the application of dental science to legal cases, particularly for identification by comparing dental records, so x-rays, charts, crowns, implants, morphology, that sort of thing. So they actually use this for many cases. You hear about someone maybe who had died in like a house fire, or you hear about when somebody tried to burn a car with a body in it to hide their murder, and then they'll say, oh, they were identified by dental records. These are the people who do the identification, who are able to look at the leftover teeth that apparently don't burn very well, and then look at all of the other records and say, okay, this must have belonged to so-and-so person. Now, this comparison specifically that they did for this case hinged on the unique features of the crown, root, and adjacent structures visible on the x-rays. The fragment had the root and part of the gum attached, and the matching was not only the shape, but also of the position in relation to the other teeth, because they did find a few other teeth. I wasn't sure if they were actually attached to the jaw, but the crown that they found was still attached to part of the jaw, and in other spots around there, you would have been able to see where the other teeth would have been positioned, even if they were no longer there in that position. At trial, this identification gave prosecutors one of their strongest tools: physical evidence directly tying remains found near the site of the suspected disposal to the victim. The state medical examiner's office used that as the basis to issue a death certificate for January 13th, 1987, thereby legally declaring Helle dead, even in the absence of a full body. That certificate allowed prosecutors to move forward with a homicide charge. Without it, they would have faced a critical hurdle, proving that a homicide had even occurred. As the defense argued, if there is no body, there is no crime. But the tooth was not the only evidence. It provides symbolic and scientific. It proved symbolic and scientific. A microscopic yet powerful fingerprint. In the jury room, such tangible forensic links carry a lot of weight. The first trial was held in New London in May 1988. They had to move to a different venue because of publicity. Because, of course, they had to keep it under wraps that somebody was put in a wood chipper, so everybody knew about it. Whoa. There we go. The trial lasted about 54 days. The jury deliberated for 17 days and ultimately deadlocked when one juror refused to continue. He refused to agree that Richard had done it, how?
What?
His wife is missing. He's sketchy as heck. There's literal tangible proof that he bought the wood chipper.
He apparently bought everybody else too.
Yeah, so he bought the wood chipper and somebody else must have gotten it. Put my wife in there. I don't know. That's really... Anyhow. In the retrial in Norwalk, the prosecution's case was stronger. The presentation of physical evidence, hair, bone fragments, the chainsaw, the tooth crown, the reconstructed serial number on the chainsaw linking to Richard proved convincing. The jury convicted Richard Crafts of the murder on November 21st, 1989. He was sentenced, get this, to 50 years in prison, but later credit for good behavior reduced that, so he got out in 2020.
Oh my gosh.
So he got out in 2020 after bludgeoning. So what they think happened is on the night of November 18th, he clubbed her to death in their bedroom, placed her body in a chest freezer, and after a snowstorm hit, he took the children. They're still in the house, okay? He killed her while the children are still in the house. He put her in the freezer while the children are still in the house. And the next day, he takes them and their nanny to his sister's house in Westport, saying they're going there because of the storm, so they have somewhere to stay. Then he goes home. He uses a chainsaw to cut her frozen corpse into smaller pieces so he can feed them through the wood chipper. But he got out early because of good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So
make them serve their full sentence again.
I know. I'm like,
girl,
I don't understand. I don't understand it. Oof. Anyway, I digress. Now
we should just refer to Richard as his real name, Dick.
Dick. Yes, you may call him Dick as much as you want, because his conviction though was the first conviction in Connecticut without a body. So it was the first time they'd ever been able to make a murder conviction in which they did not actually have the full body of the victim. So that's cool, but I'm still like, he behaves. I don't understand why.
Somebody that can do that as their first offense.
Yes.
Is off the rails psychotic.
Like, here's my thing. First and foremost, just don't murder. Just don't kill people. There are other ways to solve your problems, okay? So there's that. Don't murder people. But if you, for whatever reason, feel like you have to, and you should not, but if you feel like you have to, there's a difference between a crime of passion and/or manslaughter and I'm going to feed my wife through a wood chipper. There was a series of thoughts that led to cutting her, because he didn't even cut her once. He cut her with a chainsaw first and then put her in a wood chipper. Like, there were multiple moments when he could have stopped and said, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Why am I desecrating this person's body who is supposed to be my wife?
You're talking like a sane person, though. You're talking like someone who is literally sane and coming to like their mental clarity because they're having a lapse in their mental state. This man has no common mental state that is grounded in any kind of standing. Like, this guy is, literally is cheating constantly. He doesn't care that his wife finds it. He doesn't even care. He
No.
doesn't care that he's literally going out and like, he had no wherewithal with what he was doing. He just did it.
No. And the fact that, again, my point is I don't understand how, like, we can so clearly see that he is not in a good mental state at all. He is not a safe person. Again, your first offense is feeding somebody through a wood chipper. Why did they
What's he
think, well,
doing
you
now?
behaved? I don't know exactly. Let's see what he's doing now. Because again, he was released in 2020. And I just don't understand how you can sit there and say, if he's only been in there for what, like 30 some odd years, he's fine. Like,
I feel like a
yeah,
crime
he
like
can go,
that should
he can go
not
back into
ever be
society.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is Richard Crafts doing now? Yes, he was sentenced to serve 50 years in prison. I see something in here. January 2020, Crafts, 82 years old, was moved to a homeless shelter for veterans? Yeah, after having served time in the state prison since January 13th, 1987. Yep. Don't know exactly what he's doing now, but the most recent thing I can find... Yeah, he was released from jail nearly 20 years early because of good behavior.
I don't know if I like the idea that he is a convicted murderer and is allowed to tap into our veterans' resources.
Yeah, it says Crafts, February 1st, 2020, Crafts was recently released and is living in a halfway house. A State Department of Corrections State Department of Corrections spokeswoman told the Hartford Courant Friday. Yep, 82 years old when he got out. Reduced by year. Okay, so sentences was reduced by year as a reward for good behavior in prison work. The law has since been changed. Are you kidding?
What do you mean?
Richard Crafts, 82, got out 20 years early due to a law in place at the time of his 1987 sentencing that allowed for sentences to be reduced by years as a reward for good behavior in prison work. The law has since been changed. Then why? So then he should just stay in for the whole 50 years? Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's living in a halfway house. He's at a transitional housing program for veterans in Bridgeport. He's due to finish his sentence in June. Well, that's June of 2020, so he is out now. I'm sorry, if the law was in place when he was put in prison, and yet it has changed since then because we have learned that people don't, that messed up don't really change.
Mm-mm.
I don't think that that previous law, I do not think should have applied to him anymore.
Did he get, but the thing is, did he ever get convicted of desecration of a dead body? Because obviously she was already dead and then he desecrated it.
He would have been.
I mean, not only did he murder her, but then he desecrated her body.
The other thing, too, is in most places, a, quote, life sentence, it didn't say anything about parole, but a life sentence is, I think it's a certain amount of years, but you can be up for parole after between 15 to 20. So there's a possibility he had a life sentence with possibility of parole after 20 some odd years. But then they added on top of that, however many years for desecration of a body, and that's why he got a total of 50. Which would have been a life sentence anyway if he had stayed in prison. Gross. So there is your nice little spooky story about how an entire case hinged completely around the crown of a tooth.
And did it go missing?
It did not go missing. The rest of her teeth did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully the person is listening and they can give us another... a little bit more information about the missing tooth because we couldn't find the case on the missing tooth.
It grew legs and walked away. I don't know. Or was it stolen by the tooth fairy that you're about to ruin for everyone?
I'm sorry. Before we cover the cute winged fairy tale or the fairy who trades coins for our teeth, let me take you back in time to a time when losing a tooth wasn't about coins under the pillow. It was a matter of life, death, and supernatural danger.
When did losing teeth have to do with life or Karisa?
We're about to go there. So our story begins in a shadowy corners of medieval Europe where people believed teeth held immense power. Norse warriors strung children's teeth or talismans for their battles, convinced that these tiny relics would protect them in combat.
That's actually so sad because now I'm thinking what if it's their own children who lose their teeth like normal, and they're like, it's the teeth of my children. They're gonna. I hate that. Now I'm sad.
Okay, well, let's talk about why. Let's talk about the whys. For centuries, cultures worldwide have spread out the whispers of these latent powers that are hidden within human teeth and bones. This is like a thing. These skeletal remains truly held supernatural energy. So if that's true, how did it work? And what dark forces might have planted these eerie beliefs into humanity's collective imagination? First, let's talk about how did the people of the past believe teeth and bones harnessed supernatural powers. They believed that they were vessels to the soul, a lot like that Norse beliefs, all the way to like West African priests believed that bones and teeth trapped fragments of a person's essence. So their life force, where, say a tooth was pulled in pain and agony, that warrior's femur, like, was severed in battle or something. All that powerful energy was held inside that tooth or inside that bone. They felt like that negative energy or that painful energy was kind of housed inside of it.
Interesting.
They believed that bones and teeth had memory. They would believe grinding a saint's tooth released its visions of that saint's past. They felt like that, yeah.
Did they drink it?
Like the ashes of the vampires?
Yeah, I was like, did they grind it and drink it?
Right? Curses and even blessings. So like if you think about a lot of voodoo dolls, how they have power when you would put pins in them. But when that stuff's woven into the stuffing and into the fibers of a voodoo doll, that connects the power. It's like, I can't think of the word, where I'm here and you're there in a different location, but it kind of transfers the energy from so far of a location. Kind of gets into a little bit of yeah, we'll think of it. There'll be a word.
Yeah. I'm going to wake up at 3 in the morning and be like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Wake up at 3. I'm going to be freaked out.
Talk to Lilith.
No, ma'am. No, thank you.
Even modern science acknowledges bones transmit vibrations. If we know that and science says so, what if they also resonate with these occult energies that we've been talking about?
I knew you were going to go there.
Yes. I was even reading this article recently. I haven't went down this rabbit hole, but there's someone who has been able to isolate like the blood cells. They had like a bacteria and they put them in the same kind of microscope and they watched them both minding their own business. The bacteria here, the blood over here, and then the person is in another room that the blood belongs to, and then this bacteria or it's a virus, I don't know what it is. Something, I have to read it again, but it's attacking the blood cell and the blood cell's not fighting back. Okay, like it should.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the person in the room, they start showing him happy things, showing him things that makes him happy, and all of a sudden this blood cell becomes empowered and fights off whatever this is from different locations. Like it's still connected to the human body, supposedly. I don't know if this is like, fake news or what. I have to definitely do that, but how cool would that be if that's real?
That would be really interesting. Well, I mean, and I had this conversation with my dad. He's going to get really annoyed with how much I'm just shouting him out right now. But I had this conversation with him about the crossover of kind of what we do here, the crossover of science and the spiritual or the supernatural or paranormal, however you want to call it. And that idea of science in a way pursuing what could actually be considered the soul or something that we can quantify to say this is the soul. Now, there's a possibility that we're never going to be able to quantify that because it's not meant to be quantified. But that could be something that is hinting at what, in essence, the soul could be if we were to describe it as something that's tangible.
Yeah, you and I briefly talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
They also thought that these bones and teeth were gateways to other worlds. So a lot of folklore will hint at teeth being like the threshold to these worlds. Like the Maya would drill jade into teeth to commune with the gods.
Ouch.
Medieval witches, which I will mention here in a bit, but allegedly some were known to stack the children's molars like tiny little bone ladders to climb to the spirit realm. Yeah, and if teeth are porous to these different dimensions, losing one might briefly tear reality and let things through. So if you have someone's tooth and they're dead, so you might be able to kind of open the doorway to the dead.
I really thought you were about to say something about children.
Well, I mean, if it's a dead child, yeah, but I mean,
no, that's not where I was going. You got really morbid. I was gonna say like a child losing a tooth.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. No, I'm talking, yeah, for this is like the gateway to the other world type situation.
So are they saying in that case that the teeth of the dead are a gateway or teeth in general? Like if
Either. I feel
you
like just in
either?
general, teeth can be used. And I'll tell you why. I have a little bit of science, a little bit of pseudoscience down the note pathway here for you. But
Down the
one of the
note
other things
pathway.
that they thought was called sympathetic magic, which is kind of what humanity, it's one of humanity's oldest and most persuasive magic. Let's put it that way. It's most supernatural beliefs where the idea of objects, symbols, or actions can influence each other with a hidden connection. Kind of like the voodoo doll. There's like a hidden connection. Like you might not even be anywhere near the voodoo doll, and like I put a pin in it, and all of a sudden you
And you
react.
feel it, you get that, yeah.
Yeah. There's typically two laws when it comes to sympathetic magic. And this has a lot to do with the teeth, because if you're in possession of the teeth, so there's a law of similarity. What resembles something can control it, like the voodoo doll. Again, the person is believed to be affected. There's also the law of contagion. So like once connected, always connected, like once infected, always infected. Yeah, things that might have come in contact remain in that bond. The tooth is always going to remain bonded to that soul.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's the idea of the body plus the spirit equals the soul. Same with your
Yeah.
bones. Your bones and your teeth are part of your physical body, so they're going to be connected to spirit.
Well, and I mean, bones are like the one thing that can last forever. Ooh, I don't like it. Ooh, I just made that connection. I don't like it.
So now for what Willow has been biting at the bit, no pun intended.
I'm biting at the bit. I'm so funny. I'm Chris and I'm hilarious.
Who could be responsible for putting these thoughts into our ancient heads? Let's talk about these entities.
Oh.
The entities behind the beliefs, the who's or the what's that convinced us, the things that we like get our ideas from. And we know that when we talked in the episode of the shape-shifting and the Yinagalushi that demons like to teach human things, and sometimes it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit of precursor here. No single cult worshipped anything by the name of Bone Collector. This is the name that we're going to give it. But there are Greek, Aztec, Hindu, and even a 7,000 BC. That'd be like 9,000-year-old prehistoric Europe and Asian bone relics that have evidence that there's a collection of bones. Like there are like literal relics with like they keep skulls as cups and things like that. They're very widespread practices from even that far back. Yeah. So, I mean, there was power like, oh, look, that's a beautiful skull. I can use that for my collection up here.
Oh, I can use that for my collection. Get it now.
That totally matches my scapula plates.
Scapula plates. It's going to go great with the vertebrae chandelier, I got to tell you. We got to replace that rib in it anyway.
Yes. Okay, so the bone collector. Let's talk about this category of the bone collector or this forgotten dead god. So a lot of these...
Wait a second.
What?
So I know you said that bone collector is just the word that we're using to describe it. This is like a legit single entity?
It's the idea of the god of death. The idea of the death god doesn't have I'm giving them the name of the bone collector as the person who's sharing with humanity how to keep contact with the dead. So he's giving. Okay. So like they have different names. The bone collector that I'm talking about has different names in different cultures. Like the Greek has one, the Aztec has one, the Hindu has one.
But you're just, tying them all together because you're creepy like that.
Yeah, I'm tying them all together and calling them the bone collectors. The idea of a bone collecting entity. Yeah. With that said, this entity or these entities, whether there's one or multiples, because we know that our demons like to travel in packs of 6,000. Yep.
Soul-sucking squad.
Yeah, the soul-sucking squad. Any of these entities could have existed in secret, and its cult would likely be a blend of like necromancy, ancestor worship, and fear-based sacrifice, where teeth and bones weren't just relics, but like currency for supernatural power. So this was a way, a lot of times when you look at the origin of magic and the difference between a magic and religion, magic is the source of power. Magicians are the ones who pull the power. Relics and religion are the tools in which you use to access the magic. When you go back into like where it came from. Yeah, when you're learning to like tap into these worlds, bones and teeth might have been the way that the bone collector would have taught people to do that. You can imagine this gauntly being from this primordial religion who would like whisper into these humans, these shamans, and be like,
Mhm.
these are soul anchors. You can collect these, you can track and reclaim the dead. So I can imagine this as like a movie or a book story, like that's very, very creepy for sure.
So interesting that you say that. Slight spoiler, but also not really, because I won't go into too much detail. But I do have a character in my second book. Not really
Mhm.
talked about too much in the first one, but talked about in the second one that's coming out in January. So get ready. That actually is somewhat symbolic of death.
Mhm.
And that character, I tried to. I'm going through my edits right now, so I might change some things to make it a little bit clearer. But I didn't exactly give this character a form. This
Maybe you shouldn't.
character, like this character takes on the form that it needs to take on for the circumstance or for the person. It appears as whatever the individual would think that death would appear. So to a human,
Mhm.
it would perhaps appear as a grim reaper.
Mhm.
To somebody of another religion, perhaps it might appear as a demon from that religion. To somebody from another world, it
So
would
an
appear.
avatar, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So it appears to that person however one would expect it to be. But when it comes to battle, it can just morph into whatever disgusting, grotesque thing it wants to because it doesn't have a form.
Yeah.
And so that's, that's how I took, because I actually ended up taking a lot of inspiration from the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse and the way that they're each interpreted. And so the final horseman, of course, Death, they describe him essentially very Grim Reaper-ish, very fitting with how you'd expect him to look. But I sat there and thought, okay, if I'm actually creating a character that's like Death, Death has so many different forms. And so then it's interesting, thinking about that, thinking about going through that thought process when I was creating this character, and then hearing you talk about this bone collector, this entity that is
Mhm.
teaching or showing multiple different religions, multiple different cultures, how to collect these bones, how to use this power, this, that, and the other, and how it's appearing differently to each of these religions and each of these cultures. And it's
Mhm.
interesting. I don't know if I like it, but it is fascinating.
Well, so the thought process of this bone collector entity, essentially his identity gets kind of lost. The details are murky. That's why I'm saying there's no exact name as bone collector.
Mm-hmm.
And the cultures that believe in these things, their ideology of him kind of dies out, but the superstition of the power within the teeth still lingered. So that kind of moved forward. You have the tooth maw. This is more of a parasitic spirit. So this is some of the Malaysian legends speak of Hantu Gigi, and this is a ghost that feeds on discarded teeth to grow stronger. So imagine if it's real. You have this ethereal tapeworm type thing that wants to like.
I'm gonna put that on a shirt.
Yes, you have this tapeworm, this ethereal tapeworm.
Ethereal tapeworm.
Yes, I thought that was good. That wants us to fear its power, and teeth, and at the same time fear the power within teeth. So it's like you don't even want that teeth; you want to give it to me. So give me that teeth because those teeth are way too powerful and I need them. Yeah,
Stop it. You're about to link this to the Tooth Fairy.
Yes,
The
ensuring
Tooth
we
Fairy is
are
actually
ritually.
an ethereal tapeworm.
Yeah, yeah. So ensuring like we ritually discard them, like it's ensuring that we're getting rid of our teeth
Gosh.
straight into its waiting jaws.
That is
Tapeworm jaws.
crazy. Hey, you know what?
Tapeworm.
Tapeworms do have jaws, but not as bad as hookworms. Maybe it's an ethereal hookworm.
Maybe. Now I am so listen, people are going to come at me whatever. I am not trying to put this into every single episode. I promise I'm not. But you can't help but what about the idea of Lilith making these bargains and making these.
What about Lilith, my
We gotta talk about our
bestie?
girl Lilith here. Yeah. We've talked about her. We know her story from Mesopotamia. But Jewish mysticism, as they pick her up, because she was Lilitu.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Jewish faith picks her up, she's Lilith. And she's talked about in Isaiah. She's thought to be Adam's first wife, who turned into a demon. She refused to be his wife, and she is sent off out of Eden to the east. But she is said to steal children's teeth to birth her own phantom offspring.
Wow.
Yes. So
Ooh.
did she spin the myth to harvest like material for her own curses, like to own her own family? I mean, who knows? But
wow, that's a lot of
she's got
demon
a
spawn.
huge calendar to cover. She's out here doing everything. Haunting your dreams, seducing the men.
Stealing your teeth.
Yes.
Creating demon spawn, you know. She's like, where can I fit you in this schedule, okay?
Yes. But we know where there's magic, there's also fear.
Mm-hmm.
By the Middle Ages, a chilling superstition took hold. Witches could use hair, fingernails, or lost teeth to curse someone. Imagine a mother in the 12th century England watching your child's first wobbly tooth with dread. You're like, no, keep it in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, folklore would warn that if a witch found the tooth, she could summon demons to haunt that child, or even worse, could control their minds. So for the people, this was not fantasy.
You're so mean to children.
Right. For people of this time, this was not just fantasy. This was a genuine terror that shaped rituals. Families would bury teeth near churchyards, where holy ground neutralized dark magic. They would throw them into fires to try to purify them. Wow. Or even swallow them. Yes.
I cannot.
Parents would eat their children's teeth to keep them from going into the hands of someone evil.
Do they realize that it's going to come out the same way it went in?
Girl, you know that they know what. They just look at it and be like, corn? I don't remember eating any corn.
I don't
remember eating any teeth.
I don't remember eating any teeth. Go chuck it out in the street. Chuck it out the window.
Yes. Okay, so I have this one is interesting, but it sounds cute. But, you know, because it's the tooth mouse.
A tooth mouse?
Yes. Folkloric compromise, okay? Let me just compromise in here. So as the witch panic kind of faded, yes, Europe developed, you know, a gentler tradition, the tooth mouse. See, I'm being nice to you tonight. This wasn't just a cute story. It was a clever rebranding of the ancient fears. So in the 17th century, France, children placed teeth under their pillows for la petite souris, which my kids will probably correct me with. La petite souris, a tiny mouse who traded teeth for coins. Yes. But why a mouse? So historians think that this traces back to like a rural life, mice nesting in hatches of roofs, and that made nighttime rustling sounds. So they would make kids believe that their teeth were being collected by these mice, which, you know, obviously wasn't happening. But they just kind of said, oh yeah, it's the mice up in the, you know, in the rafters.
It's the tooth mouse.
Yeah.
Collecting your teeth in the rafters.
Yeah. But of course, I got to give you the darker theory. So mice
ruin it for me.
Were also at this time frame associated with death. They gnawed on corpses and especially in plague times. You know, we know that a lot of the mice carried the plague.
Well, because they had the fleas and, you know, all that.
So some scholars would argue that the tooth mouse was more a softened version of the older, scarier legends about teeth and mortality. So this was a way to make it less scary that you were losing your teeth, to keep the fear down, like control the fear.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I guess people be losing their teeth all the time back then. Mm-hmm. Anyway, like even as adults, because they rot out, and so we didn't know about hygiene back then.
Yeah. And there were some legends in Spain. I mean, there was a lot of legends about the tooth fairy. But now let's get to America's fairy. From marketing play to cultural icon, let's move to across the Atlantic. Let's move across the Atlantic to the early 1900s in America, where the tooth fairy was born. Not from folklore, not from clever storytelling. This first written mention appeared in 1927 in a Chicago play, but her real rise came thanks to the World War II optimism and the Disney fairy tale boom. So, dentists played a surprising role. So, the 1940s ads urged that parents to sell the tooth fairy. Sell the tooth fairy.
Sell the tooth fairy?
Yeah. To sell the tooth fairy to make kids brush more.
Sell the idea of it to the kid. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they were urging, like,
what?
They were telling parents, like, hey, sell the
Like,
tooth
sell
fairy.
this to your kids, make
Yeah,
them
sell the
believe
idea to your
it.
kids. Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha.
Well, yeah. Sorry. I guess that did sound kind of weird now that I replay it in my
It's
head.
like, how do we sell the tooth fairy?
She's up for the lot right now.
50 cents.
So one dental pamphlet even included a fairy receipt for parents who filled out providing the tooth had been appraised. Imagine like, yeah, can I cash this in?
Can I cash
So
this tooth
listen,
in?
that gives you that could be like a whole dark dentist thing. Like they're collecting teeth in that time frame to harness their magic.
What if dentists are actually demons?
But here's
You're like, please don't actually.
right. But here's the thing. Here's a little twist. Their tooth fairy wasn't just a sanitized version of old myths. Like this was literally a blank slate. So we have all these dark myths of like the tooth and everything like that. We have now the American version of the tooth fairy, and it's unlike Europe's mouse. She had no backstory, no kingdom, she had no rules. This vagueness let her adapt to every family's imagination. That's why some people get $5, some people get a quota.
Give $5?
Yeah. By the 1980s, they were leaving glitter trails as proof of her visit, and dentists would joke about fairy tale inflation as payouts climb from cents to dollars. So,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
America was like, that's too dark. Let's make something completely new.
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to tell my kids about the tooth mouse. I'm like, no, we don't have the tooth fairy. We have the tooth mouse. Your teeth are collected by a little tiny mouse
Oh, yeah.
and taken away.
I mean, there are so many crazy stories about teeth, that like what to do with your teeth and things like that. And like, I didn't go down all of them. I mean, I did read a few, but there are just so many, and they're very interesting. Like, one, they would throw their children's teeth onto the roof while chanting, "Dog, dog, give me a bone tooth." If the dog takes it, the new tooth will grow strong, and it was believed that it was tied to nomadic reverence for dogs as protectors.
So like if the dog got a bone or if the dog got the tooth?
If the dog takes the tooth
The roof?
from the roof, like they'd
Oh.
throw it up. If the dog takes the tooth, like the dog, I'm assuming the dog is like an ethereal dog, not a real dog. Like it's a nomadic dog from like cryptid type things.
Well, if it
But,
were
you know-
Ellie, she'd get everything.
Yes. And we talk about, like, again, the crossover of our true crime and our cultural
Yeah.
paranormal type stuff, but these legends matter. You know, there is a lot at stake for people in the time of not understanding certain things.
Oh, yeah.
But these stories aren't just quirks. But now I'm going to take you down a little bit of a chat about why bones were thought to hold superpowers. Or supernatural powers, I should say. Given like this strange mix of these lore and stuff, bones themselves and like things, they have living tissue. They're like stone and minerals. So it's no surprise that there would be some kind of magic connected to them. I was telling you the crystal radio theory. So it is believed that there is a type of crystal that generates tiny electric charges under pressure, kind of like when you're chewing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some researchers even speculate that bones might resonate with Earth's electromagnetic field, acting as a biological antennas.
That would make sense.
Yes.
Just with all the things that are stored in them, too, if you think about it.
Yeah. There's the blood memory hypothesis.
Mhm.
This is bones in general. This is because, you know, bones and teeth are not the same thing.
Correct.
Just doing the blood thing or the bone thing right now. The blood memory hypothesis is that DNA in bone cells lasts thousands of years,
Mhm.
hence extracting ancient genomes. But, you know, occultists would claim that these bones retain the imprint of trauma, emotion, and even souls, expanding and exploring why these relics or these bones and stuff still haunt or still, whenever those things are there.
Mhm.
Whenever you're watching the show Supernatural, you got to find the bones and burn them.
Yep. That is such a thing, though, honestly. Even, you know, a lot of this, obviously, were things I didn't know, which is why I love when we get to your section of the episode so I can learn more. But honestly, even just thinking about not only in literature, but what I do know of history and of some cultures and whatnot, there really is a focus on preserving the body to a certain extent, or having respect for the bones, having respect for those who've been buried. And obviously we know obviously we know from the fossil record one that the bones really are the only thing that could possibly last forever.
No,
So
there are certain weather conditions and certain types of terrain that like
yeah.
yeah, like rainforests and stuff like that. There are certain terrains that will not preserve your bones.
Yeah. I just mean like compared to other bodily
Right.
tissues, if there's going to be something that's going to last
Leftover.
long enough.
Yes.
Yeah, that's more so. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know if I
Yes,
said it
got you.
correctly.
I got you, darling. Yes.
But
All
so
right.
it's definitely it's interesting.
Yes, definitely interesting. All right, for the creepy bonus. So the one substance stronger than bone is teeth.
Mhm.
And like I said, teeth are not bones. They are hyper mineralized, pain sensitive relics that outlast flesh and bone alike. Tooth enamel is 98% mineral, which is the hardest substance in the human body. This might explain why teeth, not just bones, were prioritized in sorcery. They were nearly indestructible, making them the perfect soul containers.
Ooh.
Now,
Perfect
I
Horcrux.
yes, and I talked about sympathetic magic earlier,
Mhm.
so I wanted to apply that kind of in like the tooth fairy lore. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking like the coin swap. You're giving money for a tooth that isn't necessarily payment. It's more of like a sympathetic trade, like for this child's future prosperity. Like, you give me your tooth and I will protect you. Because we can do whatever we want with the tooth fairy. Remember, she's completely made up.
That's true.
We can make her whatever we want to do because she's completely a blank slate.
Yeah, because she's not even based on
Now, if you want to make it a
anything.
little bit more like ritualistic, you can make your pillow like an altar and you're placing the tooth under the pillow.
Oh my god. You're just gonna have
You know-
all these kids going to bed and their pillows are a
Yes.
literal altar.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're placing your pillow or oh my gosh. You're placing your tooth under a pillow, which is literally like the place that you connect your dreams. What also comes in your dreams, all these demonic things and the sleep demons and stuff like that.
Yep, because when you are asleep, you're vulnerable.
Yeah. It just might symbolically offer it to the unseen forces.
Well,
So,
I guess my children aren't gonna believe in a tooth fairy. I guess they're just I'm gonna burn their teeth. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
eat them.
yeah.
I will not eat them.
No matter the way you look at it. Yeah. No matter, it does not matter how you look at it. Science confirms that teeth are unique, and myths will warn us of their power. Losing a tooth might mean losing part of your soul. So handle it with care, or better yet, leave it for the tooth fairy.
Or the tooth mouse.
The tooth mouse, yes.
I like the tooth mouse. I'm gonna leave my teeth. I don't have any teeth to leave, but if I did, I would leave them for the tooth mouse. I'll get my wisdom teeth taken out and I'll put them
There you
for
go.
the tooth mouse.
Yes, there you go. All right, so happy Halloween to everybody that's listening.
Happy Halloween.
Hopefully you get a bunch of candy. You don't rot those teeth out, literally.
Yeah, literally, because apparently now
Take care of those
part of your
soul capsules.
Yeah.
All right. So until next time, if you feel like you have an episode that you'd like to share, you can go to our email at info@theparallaxpodcast.com, or you can follow us on our social media by going to the parallaxpodcast.com website. Click on those two little icons right there and give us a little follow. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, or wherever your little fancy listens to podcasts. But until then, I'm Karisa.
And I'm Willow. Goodbye, mortals.
Later.